Hey, how are you guys doing? Nice to see you back again on our virtual meeting place here on Church of the Essene Teacher on Blog Talk Radio. This is the Saturday call-in show because we usually take some calls on a show that goes with Lost Arts Radio. And our main show is on Sunday night. That's where the guests are. And this is call-in show, the extra show that we get to talk about all the things that the guests bring up and a lot of other stuff as well. Church of the Essene Teacher refers to Essene Gospel of Peace, Volume 1, where the Essene Teacher is interacting with some people that are sick, but he doesn't just talk about physical health issues. It blends right into non-physical levels, which you have to deal with if you want to completely fix up your physical health, or if you're just wise enough to want to maintain it when it's still pretty good right now, then the investigation of how to do that leads you into all these different levels of discovery. So that's kind of what this show is about, but I'll tell you what it's really about. The deal here is we're all non-physical beings, pure spirit, but it doesn't matter what words you use. We live before and after the physical bodies. We're not even mind. We're not energy. We're not light. We're what that all comes from. We're consciousness, projecting an experience of life in the so-called three-dimensional, real, solid world that's not as solid as some of us may think at times. And you got born, I'm sure you've noticed by now, but you got born at a time when things are pretty intense. And even though we're all pure spirit, we're playing different parts. And some of us decided to play the parts of bad guys, and some of us have decided to play the parts of having no idea what's going on, most of us actually. And some of us are wanting to do something positive to contribute to the situation and make it better, and I'm suggesting that we do that. And there's a lot of ways you can do it, but I'm really interested in a way that would radically change how things are going so that the agenda of the people that are ruling the planet doesn't complete the way they plan it to, which is destruction of everything, and I don't think that's a very good idea. So I'd like to see it turn around completely. And if the agenda is to create something like hell on earth here, which is where they're going before total extermination of life, I think we should do the opposite. And the neat thing about that is that you personally have the ability to do that. So it's just a matter of getting in touch with it again, right? And if you're not aware of it, you can't use it. If you're aware of it and you start practicing and waking it up, who knows what could happen. And I think the limitations of what could happen are the ones we believe in. So why would you want to believe in limitations of what you could do? So what we talk about, I'm just telling you the ulterior motive right away. I want to see you guys be the ones who want to, or interested in that, become a team, look at the situation on this planet, and turn it around in a way that nobody has to even see what you're doing. And most people would say, oh, that doesn't really do anything. That's just some kind of silly belief so that you won't feel responsible and won't have to actually do anything. But that's not really the case. And this hasn't been known for a while to very many people anyway, but it's still available. And you have all of it available personally. So the point of the show, really, other than to try to help with individual situations, and we don't give medical advice, remember, we're not involved in that at all. Go to your doctor, get all the drugs, get whatever you cutting-edge science wants to give you. This is about talking up ancient, or more accurately, timeless approaches to these same things to get to the root of problems of health and consciousness, which I think covers just about everything, and reverse the causes and then watch what happens to the effects. It's really not that complicated. The ways that it manifests might be complex because the world is not like that, but what you actually have to do, the hard part is getting away from the complexity and seeing how simple it is. And getting away from the stress and effort, because where the real power is hidden in what you can do, it's all completely effortless. Which says, what? Effortless? That's ridiculous. You know, everything that you have to do that's worthwhile, you have to work really hard and all this stuff. And I understand that, and I memorize the same things. But the only thing about them is they're not true. And there's much more amazing things going on and available that you have access to. So the show is about just giving you a reminder and some details to work with and play with and see where you want to take it. Because really, it's nothing about me. I'm just like a facilitator being here, bringing up a few points to see if you want to develop them. But the show is about you and whether you want to make it a turning point right now and start to activate what you can actually do. And it turns out that you don't have to decide between being selfish and serving everybody else, because they're the same thing. And if you want to really make a contribution to helping the world, you can't fully do that unless you absolutely take care of yourself. Because what's going to happen is either your body is going to make it hard for you to do what you want to do, or even more importantly, your mind is going to tell you everything's impossible, and it's going to make you bitter, exhausted, frustrated, super angry, tied in knots. That's going to hurt your body too. So the understanding, one of the people that I really admire, as you guys know, is Alex Jones. But most of the time he's still incredibly upset and saying that we all need to get, what's the phrase they use, mad as hell, and you're not going to take it anymore. That's suicide on a deeper level. And I know I'll probably lose a lot of people who say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and we have to fight really hard, and we have to kill the bad guys and all that. And you might have to defend yourselves in certain situations, or your families, or whatever. I hope not, but I think that's a responsibility when you're on the physical plane, and that's why I think I agree with the Second Amendment people and all that. But those are not the real power. That's not what's going to determine which way it goes this time. This is not 1776 anymore. And even then, there were people who knew the same rules really applied. And shooting the bad guys does not permanently solve the problems, although in self-defense, all the women getting raped in Scandinavia and waves, I would give them all handguns and training and let them defend themselves, and it would be over in a second. Those are strategic issues, but that's not a solution and an answer. So that's what we try to talk about, excuse me, on the show. The Sunday show has guests, but this show's different. And I was really focused on the guests for a long time, which are great people, and they're still coming on. There's a really wonderful show tomorrow night that we'll talk about. But I wasn't wanting to get into my own work for the last, 50-some years of research in health and consciousness issues, because it's what you might call sensitive material. And about 80 doctors or so, according to Aaron Elizabeth, have been murdered for daring to talk about a tiny bit of what we're going to discuss. And so I thought, well, I'd be more useful alive than not alive on this level. So I wasn't going to say much publicly, and then got asked to do the radio show. So I thought, well, it's obvious that my idea was incorrect, so let's just say everything. It's all open now. We talk about anything you want. And the situation that we're in is all these single issues that each group thinks is the most important issues, the GMOs or the chemtrails or the vaccines or the nuclear power. Many of these are capable of destroying the world. And an argument could be made that they're the most important in a way, but, and the Wi-Fi, that they're setting up the 5G systems now, so that the objective is to make everybody within range of potentially deadly microwave radiation that can control your thoughts. And it's not friendly. And instead of arguing which issue is the most important, I think it's important to recognize that they're all coming from the same source, which is the malicious people in power that are designing and implementing these different agendas that are all running in parallel to each other at the same time. I guess it's partly the overkill principle, which means if all of them but one fail, then they can still wipe out life on the planet, which is the goal, so that they can achieve other types of ends, which we may or may not go into later. But on the outside, on the physical level, the plan is really simple: destroy the biosphere, including humanity, completely. It's not just reduce population, it's eliminate it. And the mid and lower levels of the servants that are working for that agenda are given different kinds of motivation to keep them useful and keep them doing their jobs. And the lower level ones think, they're working for all these evil agencies, and they're serving their country, and they're earning a living for their family, and they're good people, and they're motivated by just trying to do their job. And a lot of them have been victims of higher education, which tells them things like, the germ theory is, the germs are out there trying to destroy people, and it was a big defect in nature that has to be corrected by modern medicine, otherwise everybody's going to die of all these plagues and everything. And the plants won't grow enough to feed people without chemical fertilizers. All this complete nonsense. They've been trained in school, and they've been trained how to defend it, and they don't realize that what they think they learned, they memorized. And there's a big difference. So when medical personnel tell you that vaccines are safe and effective, they didn't learn that in school. They memorized that in school. They don't have any idea why it's true, really. Because if they did, they'd know it wasn't true, and why, and what the flaws in that reasoning are, but they don't, because education has become more and more memorization of acceptable information and programming, which is picked up in the mind at deeper levels and controls the rest of the person's life, unless something happens to change their ability to look into themselves. And that's the kind of thing we're going to be talking about. So, anyway, as I said, the lower levels of servants are mostly just trying to earn a living and do a good job at their work. The mid to upper levels in the corporate world are being told that if they go along with destroying a lot of the public, the earth is going to be a lot better. They're going to inherit it as their playground. They'll get all the antidotes to the poisoning that they're doing now. They'll be in the privileged elite, chosen people, and they're all going to be killed when their usefulness is over too, but they're not told about that part. And then the upper level above that is at the very top, happy to exterminate everything, including themselves, because they intend to do that as a ceremonial sacrifice to their god and merge into cyberspace and become immortal. And I'm sorry about that, but if it seems too weird, if we have a handful of people left after I say that, it's you guys that I'm sharing this for, because we're not going to just stop with this is terrible, all this bad stuff's happening. That's really not even interesting unless you have solutions. And so we're going to talk primarily about solutions, but the context of those solutions has to include some awareness of what's actually happening. So there is an interesting movement I wanted to mention, and it's very well motivated, and I like the people involved. Josh Del Sol and Cal Washington, especially Cal, have come up with a legal procedure, lawful procedure, I should say, that shows signs of actually being able to be used to get rid of smart meters, and therefore after that maybe the 5G system and other things like that. I don't think it'll be allowed, and I'm not saying that to be negative. I just know something about the agenda of the people who are doing these things. But initially, it's having some really exciting successes, and they're putting personal liability for these harmful technologies on individual members of government and corporations. And Cal, who's the expert in the paperwork part, has come up with a form, notice of liability, followed up by other forms, that is apparently recognized by the lawyers and the judges and the people in the positions of power. And they're initially panicking about it because it could put tens of millions of dollars of liability on each individual for what they're doing. Some of them are quitting their government positions overnight, which is a really good sign, actually. And some judges running out of the courtroom like they're afraid of it. And it's very interesting. So if you want to take a look at that, it's called the Empower Movement. And I think it's all written as one word. You can look it up on a search engine. And they've got some videos up there that are really good. And I wrote a message to Josh that he got and acknowledged, saying that, look, this looks like you've really hit on something. You need to be focused on security, because the power structure considers what they're doing now to be the end result and good part of several thousand years of build-up to this destruction globally. And they're not going to just say, rats, you guys won, nice job, and like that. And that's not how they work. So if they're forced out in the open, then they'll go to some form of raw force, which, I'm not saying that's better or worse, but I think that we need a different arsenal of tools if we're going to actually completely reverse the situation on the planet. And that's what we talk about on the show. It's not really an entertainment show. It's like a seminar class type show, and it's way outside the box of conventional thinking. We're not giving medical advice, as I said before, at all, nothing like that. But we're talking about very old principles that have been built into nature since the very beginning, and which, fortunately, if you want to, you can use yourself. So anyway, if you want to look at that, it's called the Empower Movement. And I guess if you're talking about the reason for this show existing, it's got two different reasons that tie together. One is individually, I would really like to give you anything that would help you with situations, people, health issues, life issues, whatever you're dealing with personally, that puts power into your hands to make those things better. And so that's number one. And it doesn't have downsides. It's not like a drug that you take that covers up some discomfort and gives you 10 other problems in exchange. That's not a very good deal, really. So this is not like that. When you deal with applying laws of nature that are very old and forgotten mostly, what happens is they take some real focus and determination on your part. Not stressful, forceful work, but focus, awareness, the willingness to be relaxed, and to change programming. If you're willing to do that, then you don't have to deal with what the medical world calls side effects. So to me, this is a lot more appealing than the conventional route. But anyway, that's number one. Number two is that when you guys get into this, and the ones of you who are interested and want to start using it, they're willing to do the work in your own life, in yourself, then I am looking to you to be like a global solution to turning around the general trend on this planet before it's totally self-destructed, and to turn it into something that is really beautiful. I mean, that's really what we're after here. I don't think that's feasible with direct confrontation with the rulers. I think they're expecting direct confrontation. I think they're expecting force, violence, things like that, which they'll just use as an excuse to try out weapons they've been hiding up to now. So we need something much more powerful, but it's also kind of an advantage that it's not visible. This is something much more powerful. It's also silent. You can do it anywhere. Excuse me, I'm just turning the light on in the office here. It has to do with basic changes in your understanding of everything. So mostly we're all caught up in justice. We've been trained that that's a really great thing. Even Superman believes it because he was saying truth, justice, and the American way, right? I was watching Superman when I was in elementary school. It was on when we only had black and white TV. There was no color. And they were having episodes of Superman standing there with his hands on his hips and the wind rippling his cape and looking really impressive. And nothing like the modern Supermans, but pretty neat for those days. It was amazing to have television at all. And this was in the 50s. And anyway, he was saying truth, justice, and the American way. But Superman was deceived. Justice is not, the solution that is really needed. There's a real difference between wishing justice for people and situations and things like that versus wishing blessings, unconditional blessings, especially for the people that don't deserve it, which is all of us actually. Because justice involves punishment, and one of these laws of nature that we're talking about, not physical so much, but on a finer level, is that whatever you wish for other people comes back to you multiplied. And I don't just mean when you sit down and you make an official wish or something. I mean every second. Because it's not just the voodoo people and the spellcasting people that are blessing and cursing people. It's every single one of us, and we're doing it 24 hours a day. Because your thoughts and your emotions and your intent, what you want for certain people and situations is actually very powerful, especially if it ever got focused. So you don't have to belong to some esoteric cult to be casting spells. Sorry, you're doing it right now. And as long as that's the case, you might as well make it beneficial for yourself, but also for everybody else. And if you're into this thing of cursing enemies, then guess who else gets cursed? Yeah, that's right, you. So most of us are stuck in that, and we're creating a lot of our own stress by sending out condemning thoughts and emotions about people who no doubt, have earned it. But that's irrelevant on the energy level. It's not, the whole idea of deserving something is a human idea. The energy speaks for itself. So if you're sending out any kind of ill will toward anybody, any life form, then that's what you're feeding yourself, and it's not good food. So a good place to start, and I thought this is all we'd be talking about originally, is ways of improving physical health, including supposedly hopeless physical conditions and health conditions. I don't think there are any of those. Now, you might be so far along in a health situation where you don't have long to stay in the physical body and you're about to leave. Even in that situation, if you are about to leave, if it was me, I would want to learn in my last few minutes what were some of the laws of nature that I could apply to my own body and situation and mind so that I'd be able to transition out of this lifetime more smoothly. Because people that remember doing that know that you don't just disappear. I mean, you might disappear to people around you on the physical level, all they see is a body there, but you don't just cease to be at all. You might be disoriented briefly, and then you just have to start getting oriented to your new environment, the new form that you're in, etc., just like you did when you got born here. But you're not gone. This whole concept of death is highly misleading. Anyway, fixing your own physical health is a really helpful thing if you want to do it, and anybody can do it. A doctor cannot heal you, even a natural doctor. The only doctor that, well, not the only doctor, the only healer that can transform your body into a healthy and strong condition is this life current, life force that's flowing through you right now and that's keeping you alive in your body, coming straight from the source that we came from. There aren't any other healers that I've ever found. Now, there are human beings that are generating energy that can give you a big boost, and temporarily it can have miraculous type healing effects. There's no doubt about that. Anybody who's really into that knows that it's something that anyone can learn to do, but it's not permanent. I mean, if you keep doing things to yourself that are harmful, then even if you meet some wonderful healer who gets you better, you have a relapse until you fix the things that you're doing that are hurting yourself. So the most powerful is to turn those around starting right away. And you can do it to the extent that you feel like it. If you're in a really serious health situation, you might want to do it completely right away and work with somebody that's experienced in that, and there are people like that. But if you feel pretty good and your energy level's acceptable and your health level's acceptable right now, the way you feel, what you can do is just start making gradual changes, cleaning up your diet, only eat organic food, dump the processed food out of your diet, don't eat things in boxes or with long paragraphs of ingredients. They should just be plain regular food. And there are lots of good books about how to prepare that so that you like it. And more of it would be good for you to eat raw, because that's where all of the great health teachers are saying that the good nutrition is all in raw food. It doesn't mean that you're bad if you don't eat 100% raw food. Nobody's bad, okay? The whole idea of condemning yourself has to be dropped completely. So if you want to eat 100% pancakes for the rest of your life, it doesn't make you bad at all. I'm just letting you know that if you do that, the pancake diet is not necessarily going to help your body very much, and it's going to burn out certain processes in it, things like that, but it doesn't make you bad. And I had a number of cases, interestingly, this week, talking to people who were really felt that it was important for them to eat meat, which I don't recommend. And, you know, it made it clear that I don't think anybody's bad for eating meat or for eating anything. It's just, all I'm doing is sharing some experience with you and reminding you what's been taught for thousands and thousands of years, which from my experience is that humans are not at all designed to be carnivores or omnivores. They don't eat meat. But if you think they do, it's great. Follow yourself. Be true to yourself. Do what feels right to you, no matter what myself or anybody else ever says, because that's the one that matters. And if you do that and you're honest with yourself and you keep looking, you'll gradually find out more and more and more of what is best and true for you. That I advocate that more than any particular diet. And I'm just sharing with you that in my experience, the vegetarian raw food, organic, fresh food diet has the most healing qualities. But even with that, initial stages in serious conditions, in my experience, and in the Essene Gospel and other places like that, the detoxification has to come first. And that is done with different versions of fasting, whether it's water or juice or other things that are applied to individual bodies and circumstances. So if you learn about how to do that, then once the body and all the garbage in it is really cleaned out, then you start building it back, and that's when more substantial raw food is very useful. And for a long time, I was doing what the raw vegans were doing, 100% raw food, but just vegan. And I started looking like a skeleton, like most of them do if they stick with it. And I didn't like that. And through a lot of searching, I finally ended up not wanting to eat meat no matter what. I would have just let myself die. I didn't want to eat meat for several reasons. But I found out that I needed the fat, needed the saturated fat, needed the cholesterol, and the vegans are not getting it. And I found it in raw milk, organic raw milk. And I got back, 30 pounds of muscle, and, you know, my stability, my body was producing heat again, and it was good. It was really good. And so I'm using that now, but I don't use it for the cleansing phase because the detoxification part of the program takes a different protocol, different diet, you know, fasting and stuff like that, than the building phase. And if you don't recognize that, then after the detox is over and you get really clean, you don't build back. And I found out that wasn't really very helpful, at least for me, and for a lot of people that I've dealt with since then. So anyway, that's all just the physical stuff. And then the cleaner and stronger that your body becomes, it gets easier to do the real work, and not that it's not real on the body part, that's real and good, but what I mean is the succeeding stages, which are actually started during the body healing stages. And that's changing how you're dealing with the outside projection that we call the real world. And that is your interaction with other people in your universe and situations and basically everything. And the idea is, and this is very counterintuitive, that you are the source of everything in your projected reality. By the way, that includes the actions of other people. And this is where a lot of people just can't imagine that this could be true. And I understand that completely because it looks like it's ridiculous. But the only thing about it is it may be ridiculous, but on a deeper level, it's absolutely true. And I'm saying that from experimental experience, not only my own, but other people finding that when they change certain things inside themselves, amazingly and seemingly miraculously, it also changes the behavior of everybody else in their life. And I guess the people that aren't ready to really upgrade their behavior, sometimes they just go away because they don't want to interact with you anymore. You're finished with whatever you needed to do with them, and pretty soon you don't see them anymore. I mean, you don't do anything. They just aren't there. And other people that you do need to interact with, more in tune with what you're projecting, they show up. And they will find you. Even if you're in seclusion, they'll find you. Because they're, you know, the law of attraction was right in a sense that you keep putting out a certain frequency, which, by the way, you can't project one that you don't receive. So if you learn to receive it, automatically you'll be transmitting it. You start doing that, and the people around you, their behavior will change, and people that weren't there before will show up, and some people that were there will not be there anymore. It just happens. It's really interesting to watch. So you learn about blessing people. And this is in line with what was called love your enemies. It means if somebody's really difficult in your life and they're harassing you or whatever they're doing, if they're trying to physically hurt you, obviously don't let them do that. My recommendation would be don't let them do that. Defend yourself, your family, or people around you, stuff like that. But if they're just harassing you or being obnoxious or very difficult to deal with, the natural reaction to that which is, of course, 100% justified, is react against them. But that perpetuates a cycle that is going to leave you wondering why you're falling apart and you're depressed and frustrated and mad all the time, and on and on and on. You're not going to like it. And since it seems justified, you don't want to stop. Because, boy, you just keep criticizing some person who really is being bad and really is being disrespectful or mean to you or whatever. That's all true. But it doesn't matter that it's true. The fact that you're dwelling on that will keep you away from the power that would start putting you back together. I guess I didn't say that very well, but I hope you are following kind of what I mean. Love your enemy doesn't mean make believe you think they're really great. It means give them something, give everybody something. And you don't have to decide between being selfish and being selfless, as we said, because they're the same thing. If you want to be 100% selfish, take really good care of yourself and send blessings to everybody every minute and mean it all the time, including the so-called bad people. And if you want to serve them, do that and take care of yourself. Because you're not going to be able to send them blessings in reality, honestly, unless you send them to yourself. Because there's a law about that. It says you can't love anybody in the world any more than you love yourself. You might tell yourself, oh, I don't care about myself, I just think this other person's really great, I'm going to be totally devoted to them. But there's a deep subconscious psychological thing that you won't escape, this way anyway. And if you're beating yourself up or neglecting taking care of yourself, that makes an energy pattern imprint. And you're going to share that with everybody. So if you really want to be useful for other people and you want to be able to uplift them and send them good energy and love and all that, you absolutely have no choice but to give it to yourself. So that sends you back internally with your attention and saying, what am I honestly doing in my life? How am I taking care of my physical body? Am I just eating stuff that my mind says it really tastes good and then I feel terrible afterwards? That's not a very good idea. Am I getting exercise? Am I getting sunlight? Am I getting grounding? Am I getting enough sleep? Which is absolutely essential. All this stuff. Or am I not? And if you're not, then you might want to fix that. Because the more you take better care of yourself, then for real, you'll be able to take better care of other people. Even in your thoughts toward them. And then we get into what we've talked about with Ho'oponopono, which is taking responsibility, like I was just saying about your own projection includes the behavior of other people in your sphere. And this is totally counterintuitive. But the only thing about it is, like we said, it's true and it works. So when you take responsibility for what other people are doing, and like Dr. Lem demonstrated, you say internally in yourself, even if no one hears you verbally, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me and heal, and thank you. And you mean it, which is the key. Not only do they get better, but you get better. And the potential implications of using this thing are overwhelming. Because remember, my ulterior motive here in spending the time on this show every week and the time getting ready for it during the week and all that is because of what I hope that you guys will become. I want you to become who you already are, but consciously. And the reason for that is not only that will that be really good for you, but I think that's the force that will heal this planet if we do it before the agenda to destroy it is completed. So I would recommend that we do it soon. Starting like now would be really good. And that makes you a conduit for what we've been calling the life current, the force that keeps you alive in the body and tries to harmonize everything all the time and is the only healer that has ever healed anybody. And once you're a conduit for that, you can direct it to people and situations, maybe the whole planet. What are the possibilities? When you look at it in terms of comparing it to a cell tower that's generating harmful frequencies, our mechanism inside our own beings is much more powerful than Wi-Fi. And if you just consider the possibility that that could be true, it starts leading to other lines of investigation, which I'm encouraging you to pursue. And in addition to that, there's an energy field that people have talked about in different words around everybody, each person. It's a geometric field of energy extending out probably 30 feet or so in all directions. And if it's activated and programmed, it also is capable of being protection against all kinds of things. Psychic intrusion, like we talked about before, what happened to Doug and other people, that government uses psychic people with certain talents to break into people's consciousness, into their dreams, into their thoughts. And, remember that Barry Trower said it could be done with microwave energy, but the human organism is much more sophisticated than any technology built by man. And so there are people that can generate energies that are malicious, and this field around you can totally screen them out. So I'm interested in us being able to activate that and use that. I've had some experience with it and used it in some experiments already. Looks like it works very well. I used an old method for doing that, but I'm looking for a simple one now that would be practical to share with everybody. And I'm sure that we'll be able to find that. So those are the purposes of the show, and I'm just kind of here to share and facilitate. But you guys you're the actual star and the main person in the show and who it's for. So I'm just here hoping to do a good job working for you. See, I guess I have a note to myself to mention once in a while, no medical advice, but we're discussing health basics, and clarity is really critically important in yourself before you can do anything on the outside. And as I was saying before, it doesn't mean that somebody who does this is better than somebody else. That's a big pitfall. If somebody wants to eat, whatever they want to eat, it doesn't matter. Everybody's totally respected. Everybody's pure spirit, no matter what they're doing. And what we do depends on what things we need to learn. So I'm just sharing the things that come from my memory and experience so far in the research work that I've been doing, things like that. I also wanted to share with you a few questions that came in via email during the week, because I'm telling people, most people listen to the show not live, even though it's a live call-in show. Most people listen to it as an archive, probably because of scheduling issues and things like that. And also many listeners are in parts of the world where right now, even though it's, a reasonable time in the US, it's too late or too early in other areas. So they listen to the recording. And if they have questions or things they want us to talk about, and it's not practical for them to be awake and call in, then they can send it by email, which is fine. Richard@lostartsradio.com. I read all of them. And so far I've had no problem, talking about them when they come up. And many people ask the same basic question. So we'll go through a few of those. And I'm actually really grateful for these questions. it gives me a chance to interact with you guys a little bit and become aware of such incredible people that are listening to the show, that I feel like it's a great privilege to be in touch with you, even if it's indirect, like reading your emails. So the first one that I wanted to look at, which was asked by a couple of different people, but succinctly by one of our callers, was artificial intelligence. This is kind of where the computers are going on one level, is supposedly to be able to think for themselves. And remember that the top levels of the global rulers actually believe that they can create intelligence with super advanced computer technology. And they have to believe that because it's where they think they're going. They think in this transhumanist belief, they think that they're going to improve on the natural design of the physical body and brain, and that consciousness comes from the brain. So they're going to create some kind of super consciousness in the cyber world, and they're going to merge into that. And then the fact that they've destroyed the physical world won't matter at all. And that's kind of their sacrifice that they're making for their God. So the question from our listener was, if their prediction is right, that AI becomes self-aware soon, then how is the life current, the conscious life current that comes from our source, how is it going to interact with those self-aware life forms? And it's a really interesting question. And so the rulers think that they're really into this because they think it's going to be creating consciousness. You know, that they're actually, by creating super advanced mental processes that in these machines, that they're going to create consciousness. But they can't create consciousness. That's not within their powers to do that. That comes from the source. So other than that, what can they do? Well, they can program things, you know, like all these updates and backdoor things that they're doing to all of our computers all the time. They can program malicious things against all of us, and I'm sure they're doing that. Or in the really advanced quantum computers that are already developed and, you know, way more advanced than we're told, they can program them to do things. And I saw a demonstration recently of a robot that was made to look like a person, carrying on a conversation, telling jokes and stuff like that. But it's not conscious, you guys. It's programmed. So it just says things and processes things in its circuits. Even if it reasons, in quotes, that doesn't make it conscious. That just means it does exactly what it's programmed to do. So they can do that, and they can cause plenty of damage that way, I'm sure. Or on another level, they can actually invite negative entities into either themselves or maybe to take charge of these computers or whatever. So, but it's not the computer or the artificial intelligence that makes the consciousness. The consciousness was made by the source that makes all consciousness. That people call God, but I'm not using that in an anthropomorphic big man idea. It's consciousness itself. It's formless. So that's where consciousness comes from. It's the only place, as far as I know. But they can invite in these unfriendly beings, and for dealing with either that or the programming to do more sophisticated bad things to us, we really need to be highly motivated to develop consciousness in ourselves starting right now to the maximum level we possibly can. Because if we do that, then we're no longer able to be really victimized by these things. There are natural abilities that we have that have been forgotten. You might call them lost arts, right? And you can shield yourself from any kind of frequency that a person or machine can send at you. And we need that back, because I don't think that there's any other way to know that we can do it for sure. I mean, there are really good engineer, scientist people, Ken Rolla and others, that are developing technologies that are somewhat protective. But I talked to Ken about it, and Ken agreed that the most powerful protective technology is embedded right in us already. We are that. It's part of our natural abilities. And it's far more powerful than anything that can be designed and made by people. So it brings us right back. And our job is to work inside ourselves. So people would think that, oh, that's just, some kind of a belief to make you feel better and doesn't really do anything. That's not true. It's very powerful. But you have to really do it. You can't just say you're really doing it. You can't memorize a bunch of stuff and start saying special words and things like that. That doesn't matter. It's the consciousness behind it. And to get that, there's some things that you have to do. You can't fake this. Okay, so that, I hope that addresses the AI issue. It's real, but it's not going to become conscious. It's not really going to become self-aware. It's just going to become sophisticated so that it picks things up and responds to them, but it's just programmed to do that. I got several questions involving, excuse me, about the issue of forgiving and forgetting, because people talk about that a lot. And it's like, I guess the idea is that somebody does something bad to you, then you forgive them and supposedly maybe or maybe not forget about it. And a number of people are writing and saying, it sounds really good, but in real life, I'm not able to do it. And I just keep thinking of how bad this other person was, or maybe still is, and all the things they're doing to me that are bad, and all the things about them that are bad. And I just keep critiquing them in my mind over and over. And not being able to get over anger and resentment and frustration and resentment and all this kind of stuff. So the first thing is recognize where that's coming from. It's not, as long as you think it's your fault, your thoughts and your feelings that are all the frustration, anger, resentment, and fear and stuff like that, then you're trapped in it. And that's where you stay. And it's not fun. So you realize that those are not your thoughts. Those are not your emotional patterns. Those are programs. This is a big deal, and it's another one that sounds completely counterintuitive and not reasonable and not true and on and on. That may be the case, but it is real, and it actually is very powerful. So if you can grasp the idea that all these things running around, the thoughts and the emotions that go with them, of frustration and everything else that prevent you from forgiving, are programs rather than your own thoughts and feelings, then you can get free of them. So the first step, if you want to do that, you want to play around with trying to do that, is to find the tension spots in your own body and energy field around your body, and let them know they have to relax now. And amazingly, they do. If you go right to them, imagine yourself going right to that area of your body and telling it can relax now. It has to, because you're the boss in your own body. If it doesn't happen right away, stay there and let it complete. But if you go to that tension spot in your body or areas surrounding your body and you let it relax, that's step one. And then you keep a watch on that and don't let it come back. And you also make the habit of watching these programs that we just mentioned that are going by in your thoughts and your feelings constantly, 24 hours a day. And they're critiquing other people, they're giving your analysis of situations, they're doing all this different kind of stuff. And almost everybody is saying, this is my thought, this is my feeling. It's not. It's coming from mind. And mind is a separate entity. It's your projection, but it's not you. It's really critical to get to where you can understand that. Now, I'm noticing we're getting people on hold who want to talk, and that's great. I want to finish going over the stuff I wanted to share with you, but you're welcome to call in, and you'll be able to have time to comment, give me feedback, ask a question, whatever you want to do. And you don't have to agree. That's never a requirement at all. And the number, if you want to call in, is 657-383-1002, 657-383-1002. And I'd be really happy and enjoy to be able to meet and talk to you. So please do that if you feel like it. Anyway, so to deal with these programs that we're talking about, you're going to have to fix your relationship with mind. And mind is, as we've said many times before, is like a 2-year-old kid. That's a personality. And it is, as far as I know, it's not likely to grow up into a complete adult. I don't know if it'll stay exactly the same age that it is now, but it's young, immature, doesn't have any wisdom, and it wants the attention of its parent, which is you. And if you don't give it that, it runs around playing all these destructive programs, because controlling you with the programs is its next best thing that it can do if you're not going to acknowledge and support it and love it and give it the attention that it wants, like a little kid. So you start observing those programs. As soon as you realize they're programs, then you're not their slave anymore. This is a big deal. It sounds really simple, but if you actually do that, it is a very beginning step to changing everything and empowers you to a great degree. And then you practice blessing everybody instead of going with the programs. Everybody, the people you walk by in the grocery store, other life forms, plants, trees, stones, clouds, sky, sun, earth, difficult people in your life, situations in your life. What can happen is really pretty much unbelievable. And if you will actually play with this and stay quite relaxed while you do it, everything in your so-called real world outer life can begin to change. And then in addition to that, you also upgrade your relationship to the body, which, like mind, is self-aware. You know, maybe the AI computer stuff is not going to become self-aware, but the body is. It's not a piece of meat. I mean, physically it might be, but it's not. It's aware of all of the processes going on. And it can give you information on what's going on in your body way beyond what any kind of conventional test would tell you. And when you start relating to it consciously, everything changes. So you gradually become aware of the idea that all aspects of the current hologram that we call the real world were actually drawn to us by our thoughts and beliefs and blessing or cursing of other people, and therefore they can all be changed and things can get a lot better. Now, sometimes the reason that this is not obvious to people is that there's a time delay, and that means that on this level of frequency that we call the real world, that we do things and then the results of them may not show up until a few minutes or a few years later. And if you're not observing carefully and making a connection, you might think they're unrelated, just like, you know, you do all these things to tear down your body and then you end up getting diagnosed with some terrible disease and the doctor said, oh, it's just bad luck. You know, it's just your genetics. It's just that you're getting old. it's just all this stuff. It doesn't matter what you eat or anything. That's not true. So if you start connecting cause and effect in spite of the time lag, then all kinds of things start becoming clear to you. Another thing that many people have been asking during this week, several in the email, is that they're in situations of overwhelming stress in their life, either relationships or environmental stress or malicious people or other things like that. And they want to get rid of that, but they feel like they can't do it. So what do? And I'm suggesting that if you really want to get rid of it, first thing you have to do is understand what stress is. And it's not the other people. Even the worst relationship, you may need to change it, you know, and I'm not suggesting to stay in a relationship that's really bad, but the stress is the reaction on your part, not the other person or the situation or anything like that. It's our reaction. So the first thing is, again, like we said before, this is a deep concept. It sounds really simple, but it's one word, and the word is relax. Just whatever you're thinking, however important it is, you know, there are all kinds of techniques that are supposed to help with this, breathing and yoga postures and all kinds of things. Whatever it takes, the main thing is your decision to just let it go, let it relax, and do it on a deeper and deeper level. And if there are places in your body that are stressed and tense, go to them in your attention and tell them they can now relax, and do that until they do, and they will. And it helps if you're improving your lifestyle too, because if you're eating garbage or chemicals, or you're smoking things or taking drugs or drinking alcohol and stuff, some of that is going to make it much harder to get your body to relax. So you need to be upgrading your lifestyle at the same time. But the main thing is turn your attention inside, not just when you're sitting for half an hour meditating or something, but all the time. Watch how you feel. Watch the thoughts that are coming up in your mind right now. You don't have to do that later. You can practice it this minute. Watch the emotions and realize that they're programs, and then relax. And if you start communicating directly with mind, which we talk about, then mind doesn't have to keep playing the same program. And if you start getting into that point, you don't need to analyze what your mother did to you when you were 3 or something like that. It totally doesn't matter, because it's part of the program, and the program can be dropped. So you make friends with your mind and your body. Look at the result as stress, and mind will want to help you get rid of the stress once you start making friends with it. And I'm suggesting it. The stress, the outside circumstances and the people may stay the same, but the stress can go away completely. Another thing I just want to mention briefly is people are asking about the rollout of the 5G system and how to cope with that, because there are people all over the world, certainly many in the U.S., that are what they call electrosensitive. And that means, and this doesn't just apply to 5G. There are people that are sensitive to chemtrail fallout. There are people that are sensitive to minute amounts of pesticide flowing through the air, or auto exhaust, or things like that. It makes it very difficult for them to be in an environment that's not clean. And the first thing I would say, whether it's 5G or anything else that you're sensitive to, since the plan is right now to roll out this 5G system so that it's everywhere and nobody can escape. That's their idea. And they're making believe that it's so you get better internet service. That's not the reason for it. So the first thing to do is maximize your physical health. Find out what your physical health problems are and fix them, because the life current in you is the healer. And if you start learning to deal with that and work with it, then you can heal, or it can heal virtually anything. Get the mind's cooperation. in fixing your physical body and get your body's cooperation, wake up and realize that these are both conscious, self-aware entities, and you need to be communicating with them and relearn how to do that. And then we'll work on experiments of how to activate the energy field around you to protect yourself from things like microwave technologies and the chemtrail fallout, things like that. And eventually, when we get strong in this kind of approach, we're going to be able to help create some major defections from within the power structure that can speed up getting the environment to be better. I've got a couple of other things to go into, but we've had a few people that have been holding for a fair amount of time here. So I want to say hi to Jimmy in New York and see what's on your mind, Jimmy. Sorry to make you hold, and hope you're having a good night so far.
Hello, am I on the air?
Hello, am I on the air? Yeah, you're on the air, and I hear you talking.
Is my mic too low?
Jimmy, you sound good.
Okay, I recently want to talk about something that happened to me. My apartment has been like broken, and I've lost some various things. And personally, my life has been going down the drain because I lost something my grandfather passed down to my dad to me, and it was the only thing I had in my life.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that. That's horrible.
Yeah, like most of my dishes were taken, like my whole fridge and my Battletoads coffee was stolen.
Okay. Jimmy's phone is a little bit unstable here. Hopefully he comes back. I'll give you a minute to reappear, Jimmy. I'm sorry your phone's getting disconnected. What I'll say just for a second is that whatever's happening in your life, the best thing I know to do in response to that is exactly what we're talking about. So now I'm getting a message from Doug. Let's see what's going on. Sorry, you guys, just 1 second here. Prank caller, don't worry about him. Okay. So Jimmy's life isn't quite as bad as he was saying, so we don't have to worry about him. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate it. I can never tell, but I guess at the end of it, he wasn't actually crying. He was probably laughing because it was funny to go through all that stuff. But actually, he brought up some good points, even if he was a prank caller. He made a good contribution, and that was that if everything gets, your house gets broken into and everything gets stolen and all that kind of stuff, this still works. So even though, if Jimmy was doing a joke, he's still talking about stuff that is serious, and he's helping us with the point that we're trying to make. So anyway, thank you, Jimmy. I really appreciate your call. I hope things go much better for you and you get what you want. And in the meantime, let's say hi to John. How are you doing, John, in Texas?
Very good. How are you and Doug this evening?
Jimmy needs some better lines to make it a really good joke, though, don't you think? I mean, you didn't get to the best part.
I wasn't quite sure where. Now that you told me it's a joke, I still don't know where it was going because I was paying attention. I'm like, I don't really know where he's going with this. But okay, I'll listen. And then now that you told me it's a joke, I still don't get it. So maybe when I listen to the podcast.
I think the thing was that he was just making things sound as bad as they could possibly be, and then at the end, when his voice was shaking, I thought maybe he was going to be crying or something. But Doug is a little bit wiser at noticing some of this stuff than I am sometimes, and he said, "Don't worry, Jimmy's laughing. He's fine." Anyway, so
his coffee maker and his toaster stolen is the worst that can happen, and he's got a pretty good life going.
I know. Well, it's probably one of those coffee makers made out of diamonds and gold and stuff, so he was really
Who knows?
it's brought across the country to New York in the covered wagons and all that,
Right. But you answered some of my questions already from what you were saying earlier. But I did come up with another one as you were talking about the relaxing to help relieve some of the stress. And it's also said in the alternative health world that people should look at their disease as a guru, as basically something to teach them a lesson. And I wasn't sure if you felt that that was basically true, and people should, because you've been talking about how karma, like last week with Dee, you were talking about how karma is something you don't really need to delve into, and a lot of these life traumas aren't something you really need to analyze and pick apart, that you should just basically, take a more simple approach, looking at them as stress to be released. And I was wondering if that was either the same thing for somebody that has a chronic disease, not to try to basically look at it as something that's or something to try to teach them a lesson and kind of hold on to it so they learn the lesson, but rather just, let it go.
Yeah, so if they're willing to let it go, I think that's great. What's kind of strange is that many times people won't let go of a bad situation that they're going through, and they won't believe it, that they could be holding on to it, but you can see that that's what's happening. And I mean, I've experienced some of that, and none of this has to be held on to. I mean, whatever it is for each one of us, if we relax and let it go, then nobody can get in the way of that. That's our choice anytime. So, yeah. And a lot of times that is our teachers, like you said.
So we shouldn't try to basically look at it as a teacher and hold on to wait for some kind of lesson to come to us, but rather just let it go and basically move on to something else.
Well, yeah, if you haven't gotten the point from it, it's not going to go away anyway. So you don't have to worry about whether you hold on to it or not. You can relax, and if you're willing to see what's actually going on and to fix things in your own life, then in a lot of cases it just goes away. But no, you never have to hold on to it thinking that it's a valuable lesson. If it's something that is causing you damage, you can let it go.
And do you think basically some of these things, like diseases that are supposedly genetic or hereditary, are perhaps just maybe something like a pre-installed software to kind of establish a base character, kind of like when you were saying earlier in today's show, where people come into this world choosing to play the part of a bad guy or a good guy or whatever, and then maybe that's all that stuff is. Maybe that karma and these other things that are there are like the diseases or whatever are simply just part of the software to kind of help establish the character that you chose to come into as, and that's all it really is.
Yeah, but remember, genetics are variable too, because as Dr. Mercola and other people have talked about a lot, there's this whole, what they're calling the field of epigenetics, meaning that your genes can turn on and off anytime. So if you're susceptible to something, it doesn't mean that it has to happen. And, this new idea they've got that if you've got some supposedly bad genes and they have to cut off parts of your body because it's going to make you susceptible to getting cancer or something like that, that's not a very enlightened approach. I mean, just imagine applying that approach to brain cancer, right? You'd have to cut your head off to prevent it. And it makes a lot more sense to just take care of yourself so that your vulnerabilities don't matter.
Oh,
I don't think the genes are right. Go ahead, sorry.
I agree with you basically that we can change it, and I was just wondering if that maybe that's the only purpose they really serve, is not to teach us a lesson, but to kind of, it's like when you're an actor and the director kind of says, well, this is, you've got maybe 5 lines, but to help you in the right way, the director will kind of give you a background story, like this is your character, he grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, da-da-da-da, so that basically when you deliver those 5 lines, you actually are a little more convincing. That maybe that's what karma and these other things are, is just kind of like the way some director is giving us more background story for the character we chose to come in and play as.
Yeah, I think the situation that we're given to start with and to deal with is designed by us, based on the experiences we've had before that are unfinished, and what we really need to have the chance to resolve. So if you have a certain lesson that is ideally going to be learned from solving a difficult situation that you're born into. Getting born into it or getting it developing in your life is going to give you exactly what you need as an opportunity to resolve it. And if it never came up, you wouldn't learn that lesson. So yeah, it's not like a punishment. It's like an opportunity.
Right.
There's really nobody punishing.
No, yeah. So it's kind of like we wrote the script that way on purpose, so that basically we can create the challenge that we. Yeah.
And you know, there's endless ways that can happen. If you, in some previous experience, were really harassing or hurting somebody else, or really condemning them for something that wasn't their fault or whatever, and you needed the experience to be in a situation like they were, so that you could learn, you know, there's nobody who really needs to be condemned for anything. And if you get that lesson out of it, then you can drop that situation.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, if you start seeing everything as an opportunity and not a punishment, then you're empowered to make massive changes in all kinds of different ways.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially when it comes to with Dee last week about karma, they made a lot of sense about you can rewrite the definitions of these things so that they don't have that much power over your beliefs or what you think can or can't. Yeah,
I mean, say something really difficult comes up in your life, like with Jimmy, your toaster is stolen, or something really terrible like that. If you can either think of it as a punishment, you know, God is trying to hurt me by taking away my toaster or something, or you can think of it, this is an opportunity to become free of the programming in my mind and relax. Even though this was stolen, I don't necessarily have to feel all upset about it. And then, you know, I mean, I'm not talking about just toasters. It can be something really bad for you, but you still amazingly have the choice of internally relaxing. And once you realize that's in your hands and not dependent on the situation, that's the beginning of everything changing.
Right. Including, like, if there are, like, there's a certain person that comes, you know, that may come into your life that acts as a trigger for some of these emotions, like anger or frustration or whatever. As you begin to do these exercises that you're talking about and get control, that eventually, they don't have that power for you to control the triggers, that they will just eventually and basically invite themselves out of your life.
Yeah, if they're not needed for your lesson anymore, they're going to find something else to do.
Right. And that could explain why some people basically, and you make progress, some people in your life just invite themselves out. And
that's right. I mean, the cast of characters in your particular part of the play changes. Mm-hmm. You know, it gets readjusted to give you the current lessons that you're now ready for.
Right.
It gets really interesting watching that happen.
Right. There's no need to feel bad about these people leaving by their own choice.
No, because they're going to go exactly to the right place for them.
Right.
There's nothing else they could possibly do. That's it. So they're going to be okay.
Yeah, I just wonder if some people feel kind of guilty or feel bad enough to maintain the friendship or relationship, but they're saying that they'll go on to do whatever they need to do.
Right, and you can be friends with people at a distance, even if they don't know about it, because you're actually talking silently to everybody in your awareness all the time, even if they're not physically there. Mm-hmm. So you can, you can be sharing really good energy with anybody, whether they're physically alive in a body, whether they live 1,000 miles away. It really doesn't matter unless you believe that's a barrier.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay.
So you have free communication with everybody all the time.
Right. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, like I said, that's some of the points from the past couple shows have kind of been coming together, and I wanted to just kind of see if I could get them straight and understand.
Yeah.
So you guys, you already answered quite a few of them before I even got on, so that's great.
Yeah, good. No, it sounds like you're doing wonderful. And
I am.
First thing is always relax. The minute you start with that, whatever was the big problem is way less. I mean, it sounds too simple, and it's free, and it's available anytime. It sounds too easy because we're trained to think that unless something's really difficult and it takes a lot of force and stress to do it and everything, it couldn't be worthwhile. But that's not true.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about the homework that you talk about in the shows, and I've been doing. There's no light that turns on. It's just you do it, and then all of a sudden when stuff pops up, you later, not even at the time because it's almost second nature with the homework, but then later on you're like, oh wow, you mean somebody's like, you handled that pretty well. I'm like, yeah, I guess I did.
Yeah. People will see you as almost a completely different person.
Yeah, and
they're going to be kind of confused. How come you don't feel worse in the situation that you're having to deal with?
Yeah, but it's so subtle because you're doing the homework on a regular basis that, again, you kind of would be thinking like a movie that there'd be some kind of major transformation or, some kind of, light goes off or something. But it's not like that. It's just, like I said, the consistency of doing it. And then when stuff happens, your brain is working with you and your mind is working with you, and it just is automatic.
You're just making a new habit. And you can see how hard the old habits hold on. The new good habits can hold on, just like that too. Mm-hmm. So that you get into a situation where you're so used to the new way of thinking that some bad thing happens and your immediate response is, thank you. Please show me what I need to benefit and learn from this. Thank you.
Right. And that's what
happens. And then, where's the stress? It's not there.
Right. So, yeah, that would be basically my way of saying thanks to all the great stuff that you and Doug share on these shows with the guests and as well as this Saturday show, because it's been really helpful.
Yeah, well, I'm really grateful to be part of it, too. So you guys are making it as far as I'm concerned. Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Will. I know maybe there's some other serious callers on the line waiting, so I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, have a good rest of the weekend.
All right, you too. Take care.
Okay, see you, Joe.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, want to talk to Elizabeth in Texas and see what's going on with you. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you? Are you there? Can you hear me?
Okay. Hi. Hi, Richard. Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, hi. Nice to hear your voice.
Hi. Yeah, you too. Thanks for your show. This has been a good show for me to listen to because I've been feeling completely overwhelmed by not just all the crazy stuff going on in the world, but something that really got me triggered with my daughter this week on top of it. I just was not handling that well at all.
Okay.
So my question, I guess, is just I get about, relaxing when you feel a stressor and, taking care of yourself. I've learned how to do that really well over the years because I have electrical sensitivity. I have multiple chemical sensitivity.
Okay.
I mean, the world is just really hostile to me in a lot of ways,
Yeah, absolutely.
But sometimes there's this one situation that happens with my daughter, and oh my gosh, it just hurts me to my core.
Yeah, exactly. So you just want input about dealing with that, right? Well,
that, and then just like all the stuff going on in the world. It's kind of funny because on Saturday nights, your show is all about just being. To me, it's just about being ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. I love it. And then on Sunday, I listen to it, and I can relate to it because it's like the two parts of myself connect. Like one part connects with you on Saturday night, and one part connects with you on Sunday night. And that's all about what's going on in the world and how to be awake and aware and, where you want to go fight your battles and stuff.
Yeah.
But, oh, my God. Sometimes it's just like, it's too big. There's too much.
Yes.
And I just feel overwhelmed.
Well, one thing I want to
I lose track on Sunday night of everything I gained on Saturday night.
Okay, so I want to tell you something about that. And
okay.
the Saturday night show is going to be probably more, I would say, more important for you to focus on than the other one. But if you want to be aware, of what's going on strategically around you in the world, which is what Sunday's about, then there's something you have to do to make it safe for you to do that. If you just listen to it without doing this, you're going to have the experience that you just described. So
okay.
the thing that you have to do is you have to split your attention. And I'm going to try to put this in words. It's a little tricky because it's a subtle concept. But here's what it is. You've learned probably over time, as you said, that it matters what you eat, for example, and that if you take care of your health, you're going to have less issues with the sensitivity than if you eat garbage, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's a very important concept to learn and apply. So
yep.
that's physical food. Now, when you're going through a body rejuvenation and getting over some bad disease or health problem or something, there's a detoxification phase and a building phase when you want the nutrition. And they're not the same. And that protocol has been built into people since the beginning. It's not an invention of the Essenes or the current health teachers. It's all the way from the beginning. And real health teachers have been in touch with it and described it in different ages in their own languages. And all of the detox is built around fasting. Now, there's another kind of eating that we do, except it's different. You do it 24 hours a day. You cannot fast. And that is on the emotional level. So if you imagine, I like the picture of a vacuum cleaner hose that's sucking up everything. Let's say there's one, instead of coming out of the vacuum, it's coming out of your heart. And it's going into the outside world, and it has an expandable length as long as you want. And it goes to situations, ideas, people, anything out there. And it sucks up the energy and the frequency embedded in how that feels. So let's say there is a person robbing somebody's house next door, okay? And you become aware of it intellectually. Maybe you call up the person and warn them or whatever, but you don't absorb any feeling from it. But if you take that vacuum hose that comes out of your heart and stick it over to that trauma that's happening at that house, you're going to absorb the complete 3D picture in emotion, and it's going to take your energy down right away so that you do not feel good, and it's going to take you a while to get over it. That is emotional eating, and we don't pay any attention in general, and whatever we think about, we let that vacuum hose go and connect to. This is a crude analogy. I hope you can follow it.
Oh my gosh, as soon as you mentioned it, I could feel it literally in my chest. I could feel it.
Exactly. You are doing that day and night, every day. And as long as you do that, it's like eating out of the gutter. It's not very good for you.
No, it's devastating. It's horrible.
And it's even more instant than eating physical food. You can do it in a second, and it just saturates your whole being. So I feel
like my heart just is a sponge for it, and it doesn't move through my digestive system.
You're not. If you're sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies, virtually everything in the outside world has an electromagnetic frequency, and it's got an emotional component.
I'm like a highly sensitive person,
You're very sensitive. So there's some things you have to do because of that. One, you have to watch what you're eating, drinking, breathing, etc., to the best degree that you can. But this is even more powerful. It doesn't mean it's one or the other. You have to do this too. And that is that train yourself starting right now, if you want to do this, to split the analytical part of your mind away from that vacuum hose. They do not have to go together. That's a complete fabrication of mind. Learn to become aware of them being separate so that you can think of something and check very carefully whether you are sucking up the energy from it or just thinking about it. And if you're absorbing the feeling from it, you're not separating those two faculties. That's up to you to do and learn starting now. So once you learn to separate those, then you can listen to the Sunday show, you can listen to other people talking about horrible things at their house or at their job or whatever, and you will be fine. But if you don't do that skill, it's going to leave you just feeling wiped out a lot of the time.
Okay, so mentally I just need to turn off that emotional...
No, not turn it on. No, you can't. In fact, if you do, I'll tell you, if you do, you're going to be working against your own consciousness, which is never a good idea. You know, and that's the reason that, for example, suppressing things that you feel is always counterproductive. That's dishonest. So what you do,
I need to just separate where my awareness is?
Yeah, you take that vacuum hose, or whatever better word you think of it, and you connect that clearly to something that is the most beautiful, uplifting, inspiring thing you can imagine, and you do not move it ever unless you find something better.
Okay.
It must stay there.
Oh, wow. That was just a huge light bulb that went off about why my daughter triggered me so much.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so it's going to take some practice. You're going to have to start doing this. But if you you're going to have to be honest about whether you really want to feel better. And if you do, because not everybody does, they think they do. But if you really want to feel better, you need to start practicing this instantly. And you can't do it haphazard with half attention or anything. You have to really relax and pay attention, not stress and pay attention. Because if you're tense, it kills the quality of your attention.
No, I totally get it. And I totally get why my situation with my daughter triggered me so much, because the place where I can focus, that is just this bliss place for me, is with my granddaughter. And when my daughter is upset with me and she kind of threatens to separate my time with my granddaughter, oh my God, it's like she cut out my heart and stomped on it.
She's cutting off your air supply, basically, emotionally.
And I just was totally going unconscious and buying into the possibility that she could do that. And it's like, oh my gosh, losing my mind, literally. And she can't do that. She can threaten all she wants, but she can't do that. Yeah.
No, even if you're not in the physical proximity of your granddaughter, you are in communication with her subconsciously all the time.
Consciously. Yeah, this is huge. This is really huge. Yeah. You're communicating with your granddaughter right now and all the time. Yeah. And that's not going to stop. So your only choice with that is, what do you want to be communicating to her, and be aware of it. Choose consciously. But nobody can stop that. So you don't have to worry about it. Right. Woohoo! Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So you'll be fine.
Thank you so much.
Anytime that it looks like something is... anytime it looks like something's really bothering you, then you have a different way of looking at it. You know, where is that vacuum hose connected?
Right.
Why am I eating my energy out of it?
Yeah, do I go into a depression thinking about all the kids that are being injured by vaccines? It's like, well,
yeah, exactly.
That is horrible, but I don't need to let it I don't need to let it.
No, it doesn't have to bother you at all.
Spiritually impact me.
It doesn't help the kids for you to be upset.
Right. I've been totally this energized, activist person, but like with my feet cemented to the ground. Like I can't move because I'm so emotional.
Well, I mean, you're told to be upset because if you're not a responsible, caring person.
Yeah.
And that was never true.
Yeah, and I buy into that and just get so heavy emotionally that I'm ineffective in any other way.
Yeah, exactly. Because just think how powerful that you are. If it doesn't upset you, then you can clearly decide exactly what you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God,
it's like so much lighter. I haven't felt this light in 3 weeks since Hurricane Harvey.
The real powerful martial arts people, the masters of martial arts, are completely still. They're not flying around in a rage or all upset, and they're lightning fast, but they're completely relaxed. And it's a low-level analogy because this is much stronger than martial arts. But it's kind of a comparison just to let you know that it's not the tension that makes you strong, it's the opposite.
Yeah, I get it. I really get it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought it up, and it's going to give you something to play with during the week. And just remember that if you fall back into it, look at where it's coming from. You don't have to feel bad about that either. You just relax, remove the energy suction thing that you're using, and put it where it needs to be. Put it back. And then if you start consciously dealing with mind, you ask mind to help you do that, and it'll have a fun new game to play.
So I can do that with other minds?
You can do that with your mind. And if you do, and you start being connected to that source of inspiration all the time, which you can, then that's exactly what you're going to be transmitting to everybody else. So even if your daughter is doing something, even intentionally nasty to you, by focusing on you, even with malice, she is going to be picking up this wonderful energy that you're transmitting effortlessly. And in whatever way it needs to, you're going to be helping her even if you don't talk to her.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have some fun things to practice.
Yep. So looking forward to tomorrow night so I can practice.
Yeah, and use it as an exercise. Because you're in the habit of not being careful what you eat emotionally. Yep. And so when you listen to the Sunday show, you make sure that eating tube is very firmly attached to something wonderful. And you let your mind know that we're doing something different now, and you're going to help me, mind. We're going to pick up the strategic information from whatever it is, like the show, and at the same time, we're going to make sure that there's no leaks or disconnections or floppiness in where that hose is connected. And you're going to feel whether it's staying tight or not. Mm-hmm. And you don't keep it there by force. You keep it there by clear intention. Yeah. All you have to, when you're real relaxed, you can make an intention and it happens. And so you just say, I'm going to be eating not just to feel not bad or okay. I'm going to feel incredibly good because I'm absorbing all this great energy. And that's even going to help your physical body. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you do it while you're listening to some information that in itself is not fantastic, and it doesn't matter.
This is really powerful. I mean, I really feel lighter in my body right now than I have in weeks. And I've done other work about how to protect myself and ground myself as an empathic person, but I've never heard it like this clearly before.
Yeah, I feel really grateful for it. And The thing is, if you do it, it's instantly helping everybody around you.
Yeah.
Even if they don't know and you never say anything, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I'm lighter, everybody's going to be lighter around me. Yeah.
Yeah. They can't have, as big of a chaotic conflict if you're not part of it.
Right.
I mean,
right.
You don't even have to try to get away because you're eating emotionally from a protected source that nobody can touch.
Yep. Yeah, it's been something that's caused me a lot of isolation, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And you are protecting yourself in a way that doesn't work anyway.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the physical proximity to anybody. It was where the emotional attention was. Yeah,
it was all where my energy was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and see, another thing that will help you with these people that are difficult, whoever it is you're doing your exercises of blessing them without letting them know. So you're having the intent and the wish for them that everything wonderful comes in their life. And it doesn't matter if they're yelling at you, if they're trying to insult you, if they're whatever, it's totally irrelevant. Because the only part that you're really responsible for is what's going out of you toward them. Right. And not only will you not have to protect yourself in that way from them, but because this will do that, but you're going to be giving them exactly what they're coming there saying they need. Because by being nasty, they're actually saying, I'm totally miserable. I don't know what's going on. I feel terrible, and that's why I'm yelling at you or something. It's always internal. And you're going to be giving exactly what will help them.
Yeah.
But not from you. If you ever start feeling like it's you on the personality level helping anybody, you're going to get yourself exhausted and run down. So you just let the energy that's coming through you radiate to everybody else, and then not only do you not get tired, no matter how long it goes on, but you get uplifted the longer it happens.
And I don't need to even say anything to anybody, right?
You don't have to say anything because this is not on that level.
I do like sharing, but I do like sharing all the research.
So if you talk, if you share research with people and talk and stuff like that, just be aware that what you're really sharing with them, much more powerful than anything you're talking about, is this frequency that's in your words. And what is embedded in your words depends on where that hose stays connected.
Okay.
So you can be telling them research about steering hurricanes or whatever it is you're learning about, but while you're telling them that, you're conveying to them like an energy flow. They're not going to know what's going on, but it's going to start having a deep impact in ways that they don't expect.
Yeah.
And they'll also understand about steering hurricanes, but what's going on at a deeper level is going to be strong.
Yeah. Well, sometimes in the past I've done that, but not just like you described it. I've done it like on a mental level, like kind of telling myself, okay, all the vaccine manufacturers aren't really bad, evil people. God really loves them. They just made really simple choices, and they're being, disillusioned and steered and programmed. But that's just my mental level. It's like I still had all the angst underneath. So there was this.
You were feeling the opposite thing while you were thinking that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
If your own food source on the emotional level was cut off. So you were really trying to have good thoughts, and there was no substance to it. So you didn't feel good.
Right.
It's just like on the airplane, everybody has brought up this example of putting on your own oxygen mask first before you can help your kid. Otherwise, you're going to pass out and be of no use. And I think it's really close to that. If you have a totally secure source of emotional feeding and it's constant, then you can really wish the same thing for everybody else, and it has meaning.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really get it. It's not about turning off that part of me. It's like if I do have an emotion, it's actually going to be more free to express it, and it's going to be more pure.
Well, the other thing is that if you hook up that tube to something really positive, because you've got this sensitivity developed, you're going to be just absorbing it on a really deep level. So as bad as it's been when you connected it to other things, it's going to be really good when you put it in this direction.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Your sensitivity is actually a gift, and it's only that if it's connected to the wrong thing, then it's hard to see it as that. But now you'll be able to feel it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let us know what happens.
All right. Thank you, Richard.
Okay, talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Okay, that was great. I'm going to take another call in a minute, and I just want to make sure I don't totally forget. Oh, yeah, I guess we were talking about this already. Questions during the week, somebody had asked me, how am I supposed to love chemtrail pilots? And it's really just what we were talking about with Elizabeth right now. It's that it's not a dishonest thought pattern like, oh, I really love these great chemtrail pilots, and underneath you're really upset with them because they're poisoning the world. It's a different definition of love. It's like sharing an energy that you don't even have to let people know that you're sending to them. It's really powerful, but you can't fake it. If you feel a certain way, you can't make believe you feel another way. So the way that you get your feeling honestly to a better place is exactly what we were just talking about. You connect that emotional feeding tube, whatever image looks good to you. I see it like a vacuum tube that comes out of your heart. And you leave it connected to something that is the most beautiful to you. It has to have meaning to you. It doesn't matter if anybody else would relate to it or not. And if you do that, then if you have positive intent toward anybody, which means love for them, it's going to carry power because it's coming into you. So it can come through you and out to everybody else. It also doesn't get you exhausted, because it's not coming from your limited resources. I hope that makes some sense. So I want to see what's going on with Dee in California. It's been on hold. Hi, Dee. What's going on?
Hi, Richard. Oh, another week of learning. Every day is another day of learning, and I really, really empathize and relate to what Elizabeth was saying, because I, too, have gone through exactly what she's going through with chemical sensitivities and none of the kids understanding and, the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right.
But I just wanted to put a plug in that there's really a lot of hope, because I have changed radically over the last year, and it's just been absolutely astonishing to me, because I never realized that a person could change that radically. I didn't know it was possible.
You used to be a lot more vulnerable to being knocked around by situations on the outside, I think, right?
Yeah, and I'd hear you say, look on the inside, and I didn't have a clue what that meant at first, and it took a lot of changes before I even got to, I think it was probably 6 months at least before I even started to have an inkling what that meant.
Yeah, at first it doesn't seem to make any sense at all. I mean, inside what? I mean, inside my brain or my arm or what? It's very hard to put into words.
Yeah, and now that I've now that I get it, because I'm starting to, experience what that means, then everything starts making sense and all the pieces start clicking into place. So I just wanted to encourage Elizabeth that over time, if, she really thinks about it every day and follows the advice that you've been giving, it's just incredible change that happens. And like John said, you don't even notice it at first, and then you look back from where you're standing at how you got there, and you go, how did I get way over here?
Yeah, it's almost like being a different person, I think. But
yeah,
it's like changing into who you actually were all the time.
You turn into the person that you've always wanted to be.
Yeah, which fortunately is who you are.
That's real fortunate that you really are who you want to be, because, my children never understood where I was coming from. They didn't understand the chemical sensitivity reactions. If I got a exposure, I would go off the deep end into, I couldn't even control my senses, really. I was just out there from reacting to whatever was assaulting me. And I did want to give her a tip, and that is, if you breathe through your mouth instead of your nose when you may be around something that could trigger you, it won't trigger you the same way. It'll be much better.
Because there are sensors in the upper part of your nasal cavity that go right to your brain. And you can temporarily shield yourself a little bit that way.
So that helped a lot. And then the other thing that you brought out that really, I think, metamorphosized me a lot is that you've been saying to pay attention to your feelings. And, like Elizabeth, they just would go playing and whizzing on by, and it was hard to pay attention to anything except for the misery I was in. But when I really start to question that, because I was taught to not depend on feelings, that feelings could never be trusted, and that all I could look at was what was written in Scripture, and so not to go by your feelings at all, because they're probably wrong. And I just turned that around 180 degrees and really paid attention to my feelings, and I think that's been a real big key, too, to the success that I've discovered.
Yeah, I think you're completely right, and what we're all being taught now is, you have to be scientific, and to be scientific, you have to have no feelings anywhere, or at least ignore them if you do have any. And so that gets you completely out of touch with what guidance is trying to show you in different ways. Right.
Well, I thought it was interesting what you were talking about with John, where you're finishing sometimes things that may have gotten not completed yet. And maybe it's a different lifetime. Maybe it's something some story you heard about your family when you were little, all these things that may not really apply, but opportunities, that's looking at it 180 degrees different. I always looked through, everything was negative to me. I was always looking through a glass darkly, always. Everything was half empty, not half full.
Right.
It's just taken a whole long time to get that turned the other way, but it is finally doing it. And the more I do it and remind myself to relax and all those different, tips, then I'm starting to really see it full, not empty, and how beautiful life really is. And it snowballs, and it gets better and better and better, and feeds my brain loops in positive ways instead of negative ways. So. Yeah,
exactly. Doesn't it make you feel a lot more empowered in your own life instead of a victim of everything that could happen any second?
Totally. And I think it's starting to heal a lot of my sensitivities, but then I've also avoided, I went by a house that had incense burning in. It took me probably 2 days to get through that, but every once in a while there's different burps that come up, but I'm all in all doing way, way better.
Yeah, and your physical body's a lot stronger than it was too, I think, right, from what you've been describing.
Well, when I really went all the way raw and stopped cooking my food is when that really switched.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think I was really enzyme and probiotic deficient, and doing the the goat milk and also just not cooking my food and eating organic food has made that's what's made that success.
So if somebody wanted to know from you, well, don't you feel incredibly deprived not being able to eat cooked food? How can you stand it? What would you say?
I've had people say that they could never not eat meat or cook food, and I told them what my experience was, that I think it caused sludge in my body to where my body was not able to have its gears running really smoothly and oiled and slick because of all the sludge. It's like having dirty oil in your car because the cooked food it's already dead, and so it's just causing a bunch of dirt in the oil.
Yeah, I've seen exactly the same thing, and that if there's not life force in the food or not much, then it's like a little bit of it might get used with a lot of effort by the body chemically, but there's a whole bunch of it that...
Oh, Richard cut off because it's almost 8 o'clock, and it always happens right before 8 o'clock, so he'll probably be right back on. But we were talking about raw versus cooked food, and my experience with that is that it when I first decided to go raw, at first I couldn't think of a thing to eat. It's like, okay, besides raw broccoli and carrots and celery sticks and some apples, what am I going to eat? It's like there's nothing to eat, and I feel like my throat's cut. I'm starving to death. And it just took time to get beyond that. And now there's so many things to eat. I can't even eat all the things that show up for me to eat in a day. It's like I have to say, oh, I really wanted to eat those grapes, but no, I've got, all this salad today, or, it's just incredible how much food there is when you really look at it that is not needing to be cooked to be eaten, and it's really palatable. And so I started making my own salad dressings too, which really helped a lot. Just out of stuff like olive oil and lemon juice or grapefruit juice and some garlic and maybe some herbs, like I grew some basil and mint and different things. But yeah, there's so much to eat. I think I broke it down into roots and fruits and nuts and seeds and my homemade yogurt, and it's really simple. There's just a lot. I don't eat potatoes because they require cooking. I mean, maybe there's a way to do them raw, but I don't know what it is.
I think I'm back, Dee. Sorry.
Yay! Good.
Yeah, thanks for continuing to talk so everybody else didn't get cut off. I don't know what's going on. It's one of the free features, I guess, of Blog Talk, that it seems lately about 8 o'clock I just get kicked off the show, so I appreciate it. Anyway,
well,
I was off for about a minute. Why don't you tell me what you were saying?
I was just giving some ideas on how to eat raw, just roots and fruits and nuts and seeds and homemade yogurt and making your own salad dressings. And the fact that when I first started going raw, I felt like I couldn't find anything to eat, but it was just a matter of adjusting to it. And now there's so much to eat that I can't even get it all eaten in one day that I have available to eat.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it definitely gives hope to people who think that it'd just be too impossible, because especially if you have the tools of working with mind that we're talking about, then actually if you learn how to do that, fix the relationship with mind, there's no way that any kind of negative attachment or addiction can touch you anymore, including...
Yeah. Well, I think it took cleansing first to really get my mind opened. And the leafy greens, I forgot to mention those. Those are really important, like the juicing. Yeah. I don't do it every day, but I do it as often as I can remember to.
Right.
But I'll put something on the forum that just gives ideas of raw foods to eat, because I have a really big list I made. And it's a huge list, so there's lots of stuff to eat. So I'll put that up, and then I wanted to ask you a question.
Sure.
I have some friends that do a little study group, and they are under the impression that, I know we talked about the fall of man thing before, but I'm trying to figure out ways to put this all together in my head, where there just is that everything was good to begin with, and now everything's deteriorating into a really bad situation. And we've even talked about, how bad it's getting. But on the other hand, aren't we just still waking up and growing? I mean, we haven't really even... There's different dimensions, and in the dimension we're in this hologram thing we've been talking about, isn't there just a long ways left to grow, and we're just really babies at this point? I mean, what would be your view on those two ideas?
Yeah, I mean, certainly speaking for myself, and probably most other people would feel this way, is that compared to what is left to learn, we basically still know nothing. We're in below preschool level, spiritually speaking. At least I would say that for myself. And I'm sure there are people that have gone much, much further, probably all the way back to the source. But in my present state, I know that I'm just figuring out the basics at this point. And the cycles that the Earth goes through vary, from time to time. For the last several thousand years, the rulers of this world have been trying to kill everybody, and they just didn't have the right technology to do it until recently. Now they're feeling a lot better because they've got the ability to blow up the whole biosphere. But that kind of malice has been going on for quite a long time. And yet, that doesn't limit the possibilities of what can be done. So what I'm hoping is that even though we're in a time of really hideous, evil and control on some levels, we're walking around with power that comes from the source of life that most of us have no clue is even in us. And the things that you're saying can transform you into feeling really good, even in the middle of the same world. My hope is that it will eventually, and probably not too long from now, give us the ability to turn things around on a planetary scale. And I believe that's completely possible.
That's neat.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Well, like you were saying about the chemtrail pilots, and somebody had a question about that. I have been experimenting with that over the week. And what I ended up was I tried going into the cockpit with them, and instead of looking at it like I'm going to, try to talk to them sensically, I just wanted to go with the feeling of it, the whole thing, just so I could share a good feeling with them, which they may not have available to them otherwise. Right. And so then I got to thinking, well, I'll just pretend I'm a kid on the playground and they're a kid on the playground, although my presence in a light form is right here next to their light form. That's how I imagined it. Right. And make it jovial, like I want to play with them, like come and play with me kind of an attitude.
Yeah, that's
and that really helped a lot to love them when I just thought, oh, let's just play. Let's just be kids and play. I know you're pretending to be these pilots and all this, but I'm just a friend that's shown up. Let's go do something fun, like, whatever's interesting, instead of this boring job that you're doing for some odd reason. And then I got to realize that my Merkaba thing was spinning way fast when I was thinking those thoughts, and that what it was showing me was this bright violet, white violet type color, and it was like the plane with, I was in the cockpit trying to share these feelings of playing with these pilots. The plane ended up flying right into this bright violet field in the air, and it's like their whole demeanor changed.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just beginning. I mean, what you do is amazing. And one of the things I think you're finding out is that what you're sharing with them is not coming from your personality level where it would get exhausted. it's coming from an inexhaustible source. So you're completely secure. Doesn't matter what they do. I mean, you're in this energy field and basically untouchable, and the only thing that could happen is their benefit. So it gets to be fun.
Yeah, because that is the only intent. And actually, I think what it's doing is changing their ability to perceive the world, because they don't see it as an open field. They see it as a closed little box of what they're programmed to. So once they start getting a taste of a bigger field, I think they're going to like it.
Oh, they're going to like it, and they're not going to be able to stop thinking about it, because when you put emotion next to logic, emotion wins every time.
Good.
So you took the right approach.
Yeah. Well, my Merkaba effect thing has been very intriguing. I've adopted it as my third kid. So,
excellent. Good idea. That's perfect.
So now I have my mind and my body and my Merkaba, and we're all sitting down and relating together and having talks. And like if mind has a problem, we'll all get together and brainstorm it. And so it's going really well.
Exactly. So you're really busy with your kids now all the time.
All the time, and I was having a huge lump last week and the beginning of this week with mind. It was really balking at the idea of changing. It didn't want to change its mind at all. Right. So I finally decided to treat it like it's just one of my friends that's having trouble forgiving or whatever their problem is, and they would talk to me about their problem. So I decided to try talking to mind just as if it was another one of my friends, and that worked out really well.
Good, good.
It took me out of just being irritated and annoyed. It took me into a mode of trying to assist and help, and so that really was key.
What I would suspect is that it just starts feeling insecure, and that's why it feels like it has to hold on to old patterns.
Yeah, and so now that we're all communicating better, it's going better.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And what's so neat is that what you're exploring and discovering is something that is there for anybody that's ready to try it.
It takes a while to figure out that you really do have that kind of power, because we were never told that these human beings had that kind of power. It's just a whole new concept.
I know everything about what you want is wrong, what you think is wrong. You can't trust your own feelings. I mean, you were given programming designed to make sure that you never got reconnected to yourself.
Right. And that's been, it takes time to change that. A lot of burps come up for me, and I had a burp on Tuesday. I woke up in a really funky feeling. I didn't know what it was, but I knew something was wrong, and I couldn't pinpoint what it was. Yeah. So I just sort of went with the flow, like the water thing you were talking about last week, and let it do whatever it wanted to do, and it ended up making me feel like crying, and I didn't know why. So I just went ahead and cried, and then my mind tried to tell me that it was me feeling sorry for myself, and I corrected my mind, and I said, no, remember, mind, we already went through all that. We don't do that anymore. We don't have to feel sorry for ourselves, because we have everything we need and want. And so then I realized that I wasn't sad for myself. I was sad for the world. And so I applied the tears to the woeful part of humanity that really needed somebody to care for them. And so I was crying kind of with them, or for them.
Yeah.
And it got me through it, and it turned something that could have been really negative into something really beautiful. So I was actually happy that I was able to cry for or with them. It made me feel good to be able to help them out. And then...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, don't forget what you were going to say, but...
I won't.
What that brought up for me is that one of the things you find out that is kind of surprising at times is that there's not a limit for you to send this, like the energy that you were sharing with the chemtrail pilot. There's not a limit to the number of people or beings you can share that with at once. So if you wanted to do it with all of humanity, it's not any more difficult than with one person.
Oh, that's right. You said size doesn't matter and distance doesn't matter.
No, because you're starting to relate to your body, right? As a conscious being, as one of your kids, and the body has tens of trillions of cells in it, each one of which is self-aware. So we're like the cells, in the life web on the world, and there's not even 1 trillion of us, humans anyway. And since you can relate to your whole body at once, you could relate to all of humanity just as easily.
Wow. Well, what happened is I have been trying to more focus on relating to humanity as a whole in my Ho'oponopono that we were talking about.
Right.
But then I realized when I went and milked the goat, and I realized I was looking on the calendar to write the date on the jar of the milk, and I realized that was the anniversary, the 16th, exactly to the minute anniversary of when my fiancé was killed.
Wow. Incredible.
I mean, it was right when I started crying and everything, and I hadn't really remembered that was the date until I went to look on the calendar. Then I realized that was the date.
Yeah.
But through the whole thing, I found relief, and I got a really special gift out of the whole thing, because several months before this, I had decided to allow his spirit to go on to whatever he needed to do instead of worrying about how miserable I was that he had died, right? And so I had pretty much already released him to do whatever was best for him and not hang on to it and mourn constantly, because it felt like it was trapping both of us by me doing that.
Yeah.
So I'd already decided not to do that, but Tuesday felt like maybe he got reborn. It was just a really weird thing. I can't even describe how it felt. It just felt like more than just me releasing him. It felt like he was going through some kind of a transition where he became totally free and happy.
Oh, wonderful.
And that happened last week, too, with my first husband that died.
Wow.
When he came in that dream, all happy, all my past is starting to release and allow me to be free to go forward with my life is what it feels like.
Right. I mean, it's all contained in that really deep word, relax, right?
Yeah.
Because these are all levels of relaxing. The other thing is that when you were talking about the two people that you were separated from, this whole separation thing is one of the most difficult experiences on this plane, I think. And none of it's real in the sense that those people are not those bodies. They took them, and that was great, but they're not those bodies. They're actually spirit or consciousness that's not limited by location. And once you realize that, they will always be available for you to communicate with immediately whenever you want to.
Okay, well, because they're source and I'm source, and we're all the same, just like I'm the same as all the other people, including the chemtrail pilots, right?
Yeah, exactly. And anybody that you think of, that you remember them and bring them in front of your vision, you can communicate right to their subconscious immediately.
Well, I haven't done that yet, but I'll keep that in mind and see what this week brings.
I'm not saying you need to. You may not need to with most people, but if you ever do need to for some reason, then you can, just like with that pilot, you can communicate on a level that is guaranteed to reach them.
Oh, I see what you mean. Right. If I'm going by just being a happy part of spirit instead of a thinking, mental, logical, reasoning person, it makes a difference.
Yeah, if you met that chemtrail pilot in person, he probably wouldn't be open to anything that you were saying and would have negative thoughts about it. But the way that you did it, it gets right past all that. And that's why I think, what we can do, we barely have any idea yet. We're just finding out.
Yeah, it's like
this is the power that they are afraid of at the top levels, and they have good reason to be afraid of it, except that it's going to help them.
Right. It's going to heal them.
Yeah, exactly.
But like you were saying, a lot of people don't want to be healed necessarily because they're so comfortable and used to the familiarity of where they are.
Yes, but the spark that you're putting in is going to make them start reconsidering that.
Okay. Well, maybe the reason that my past relationship people are feeling to me like they're being released is because maybe it's just my mind that's being released of
right.
things.
And the people that you need to interact with at different times are constantly changing. You know, and there may be people that have been having to wait that are going to just run into you for no apparent reason because you've gotten to a certain point and you're ready for that.
Right. Well, I had been talking to somebody who's been showing up because the person said that, and this is a new kind of friendship. The person said that they really like talking to me because I understand things that most people don't even get, and so they were excited that they had somebody to talk to that knew what they were talking about.
Exactly. And you couldn't find a person like that by putting an ad in the paper. They have to just walk right up to you.
Yeah, that's what happened. And then I enjoyed talking about those kind of things too, so it didn't bother me a bit, and I felt the same way. I was happy to talk about it. And then I mentioned to the person about some of my needs, like he was asking how I was doing, and I said, well, my roof is going to leak if I don't get it tarped and this and that, and, you know, my light switch is broken and all these different, I didn't try to go into too much detail, but I just put it out there, and he didn't pick up on it at first, and I guess he went home and he went to lay in his bed to go to sleep, and he came back early the next morning and knocking on my door saying, the Holy Spirit wouldn't let me go to sleep. He said that I forgot to pick up on the fact that you needed help.
Yeah, it's being taken care of. It's really fun to watch that kind of thing happen.
Yeah, it was neat. And then I had another healing, and it wasn't my goat, it was me this time. It was my wrist. I had really hurt it trying to put heavy weights up on the roof to hold the tarps down. And it healed overnight, basically. It was really hurt, but it healed overnight. So I'm getting more and more impressed by this power that's flowing through this Merkaba force, and I'm wondering how to program it or if I even need to program it.
You have a choice from what I've been able to find out so far, and that's that you can give it specific suggestions of things to do. For example, don't let no harmful frequencies are going to come in through that energy field to reach me from now on, of any kind, no harmful frequency. And that includes a lot. I mean, even negative psychic type attacks would not be able to get through if you include that. But you can also give the kind of programming that whatever spirit thinks is best, that's what I want.
Right, I'm kind of at that one.
Yeah, that's open-ended, and it does a lot.
Right, because I've kind of already lost the fear thing, but I'm not saying I don't get affected by my neighbor's Wi-Fi and smart meter. I do, but so I will try that one.
Your energy fields could block those if it gets programmed right.
Okay, I'll see how that goes. Cause
it's a much finer frequency than a Wi-Fi.
It's higher, isn't it? Smaller sine wave.
Way higher.
Okay.
And it's way higher. It's on several different dimensions even.
It's a very strange phenomena. I never even heard of anything like that before, but it's really, really unique. I didn't know that human beings had that aspect at all.
Yeah, it's pretty useful. Especially in an environment like we're in now. That's why I'm interested in the simpler and simpler ways to activate that, and I think if you're coming from the space that you're talking about and sharing this good energy with all these other beings, whether they're friendly or not friendly or whatever, I think that kind of thing sets it up so that with a little bit of intent, that field probably activates very easily.
Yeah, I think that's probably what turned it on, along with the fact that my body is so squeaky clean that my teeth don't get plaque on them, and my body has no body odor. It's just like, I don't even have to take a shower or brush my teeth. It's gotten that clean.
I know. That's something that people would hardly believe, but I've seen the same thing, and it's absolutely true. That even if you can't wash your body for months, it smells fresh and clean. And that's just a normal state.
But I think that has both my body and my mind getting cleaned has a lot to do with the third child, as I'm calling it now, coming online.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to look at it.
I'm hoping that the energy from that, because it does carry a lot of energy with it, I'm hoping that that energy will help heal my cells, because I still have difficulties with them, but I'm thinking
Make sure that you don't have any belief subconsciously that it can't.
Okay.
That's
well,
really...
when it first started activating, I didn't know what it was. I hadn't read the Ancient Secrets book yet, and it started trying to turn on before I even knew what it was, and I started kind of thinking it was something else and not knowing what to think about it and thinking it was something negative. And it took a while with it being very patient to get coming on to line until I figured out what it was.
What did it feel like to you when it started?
I couldn't tell at first. It started doing it right when music was playing on the radio, or when I was driving in my car, or when water was flowing through a hose that I was holding. Just things where energy's already moving. It would sort of get active when it was around other active movement and frequencies. And I just thought, well, why is this happening to me right when I am listening to this music on the radio? Maybe it's just, it almost felt like a really weird negative aspect, like something was trying to attack me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was.
Not because the energy was bad, but just because it was unknown, I suspect, right? Unfamiliar.
It was because of what?
Because it was unfamiliar, not something new.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was, and so my mind immediately jumped to a conclusion that it was something negative.
Well, we've been trained, for thousands of years that anything that is unknown is evil. They have this idea called, they call things occult, which means closed, and nobody really has any idea clearly what that means, but it's just something that we don't know about, therefore you have to be afraid of it. And it must be bad.
Yeah, I thought, it was like what happened to Doug. Something was trying to get in my head and make me really weirded out.
And that's why it's so important to have that feeling faculty activated, because you can feel whether something is positive or not once that gets clear.
Well, and then I have one other final question. And now that I know it's positive, I am to the point where I'm dropping doubt and I'm going just totally with giving and thanksgiving.
Good. Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's all I need.
As long as you're in the body, you can keep doing that, and even when you leave this body, you can keep doing it too. It carries over to wherever you are.
Well, that leads right into my next question, which is, it's reincarnation. I've been having a little bit of pinges of anxiety trying to sneak in there, and I don't want them. So I thought I'd try to get the air cleared with mind, body, and Merkaba and try to figure this out with you on this whole reincarnation thing, because I realize from seeing my, friends and children and grandchildren and, all the harm from the vaccines and the harm from going to the doctors, and I'm not trying to knock all doctors, but I'm just saying that it's not a safe situation anymore because of the lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
So I'm not pointing a finger at anyone in particular. I'm just saying there's a lack of knowledge, and that is almost frightening, you know. And I don't want to be reincarnated into that situation. So do you think that there's a way around that?
Yeah, what the force of karma is carried by programs.
Okay.
So if you don't think those programs are yours, they can't keep you trapped.
Okay.
From what I can see, it's the identity with the programs of the thoughts and the emotions. And if you think those are yours, they're always unfinished and they're going to drag you into the next episode. If you see them being projected by mind, who's walking around playing with this little projector toy, and not yours, then they don't have any hold on you.
Oh, so that the reincarnation is only like a do-over when you really need it, but if you don't need it, maybe you don't have to be reincarnated?
You can get dragged into new situations, projecting new situations which appear to be rebirth, by unfinished desires or animosity or any emotional thing that you think is yours that you need to complete, and you need a physical environment to complete it. And so you create it. I mean, obviously the source creates it, but the source creates it according to your intent.
Oh, so if I don't feel like I have any unfinished business, I may not need to do that.
No, then you do what you want.
Oh, I like that. Okay, that takes all the doubt out, because I'm trying to get rid of doubt completely. So I wanted to clean that one up.
Right. Now, you may decide that you have some project you want to do and come back into this environment to help people if you want to. But there are so many other levels that you can live on other than this one. This is just one of almost infinite other choices. And you can go where.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to be pretty brave these days to go through all that learning and stuff all over again. I mean, losing your memory and having to be, you know, thrown into a school situation that you really aren't into, or, you know, forced to take medicines.
Right. I mean, I had my memory for the first 2 years, and then I lost a lot of it. So this is a very unstable level. I mean, and when you're thinking about coming in here to do things, you don't remember what it's really like. So, yeah, I don't think you have any obligation to come back to the same level unless you want to.
Oh, good. Well, like what you said about when you're little, you had memory. When I was little, I had a invisible friend that was with me all the time and played with me all the time, and we just did everything together. It was just an invisible friend, and I'm starting to think it wasn't imaginary, because now that my Merkaba showed up, it's almost as if it's that same thing again that's coming back.
Yeah, there's so much going on. I mean, we're aware of like one atom out of a whole universe of things that are happening. So,
I mean, if I told anybody that I had an invisible friend now, they'd probably want to put a little white coat on me and lock me up. But
yeah, exactly. You want to have some discretion about how widely you share this stuff. But yeah, starting to be open to different understandings of what's going on is a really good idea, because the preconceptions are what limit our ability to see it.
Yeah, so I think I'm just getting freer and freer of the programming, perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Source is always free of it. It's just I guess I could restate that and say I'm just letting go of the programming more and more to the point where I am freer and freer of it.
Yeah, you don't have limitations if you let go of that.
That's cool. Well, it's been exciting, and I'm very, very appreciative and grateful, and I'm looking forward to finding out a lot of new other things that I had no idea existed. Me
too. I mean, we're just all exploring on this same whatever it is, some kind of a journey or path or something. But I think that a lot of us are being brought gradually together into I don't know exactly how it's going to be, but I think that we're going to have a hand in making things better on this planet. And I don't know exactly how that's going to happen, but I know that we have unlimited ability to do that if we're not in the way. And if we're in harmony doing it together, there's no length of time that it arbitrarily has to take or anything like that. And even if things look incurable or the ocean looks permanently dead or things like that, it's just a movie. It can be changed.
Okay. Well, because of you're talking connecting back to Source, which is connected to everybody. So we really that's what you mean by really we basically are each other in that respect.
That's right. It's just there's only one being that's ever been here.
Okay. Well, so having a conscious is listening to a voice within, right? If you have a conscious, you know that you've done wrong if you've done something to harm somebody. That's a conscious.
Yeah,
so
it's just going to rush in more and more if you're not caught in the programming.
Consciousness is conscience, right?
Consciousness, gives the effect of what's called conscience because you're aware of what is positive and what's not. And it feels so uncomfortable for you to do something that is not positive. You feel like you can't do it. It's not that you're afraid to disobey or some nonsense like that. It's that you're getting in touch with where you came from, and you can't stand the feeling of being out of harmony with it. So you're always listening, and you're getting more and more in tune with that, so that you automatically want to do things that are in tune with the source.
Well, I noticed that I do still have slip-ups, even though that's not what I want to do. Sometimes it's like I don't not focused enough, and something will slip in there.
Yeah, but
and then I feel
to react to that differently, because even the slip-up experience is a gift, instead of a bad thing, because if you relax through it and let yourself just come back to center, then you're learning something really valuable.
Yeah. So I didn't beat myself up over my last slip-up, and I just did exactly that, and it has been, I don't think I'm going to have that slip-up again.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you do.
Okay.
Because you just stay where you're fine. And then, slip up eventually stop when you don't react to them anymore.
Oh. Okay. Well, that sheds a big light on it.
Yeah, they're just more programs.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Have a wonderful week.
All right. You too. We'll talk to you next time.
Okay. Good night.
Okay, Steve. Okay, guys, we've got a little bit more time. We can take another call or two. Anybody that still wants to call, you may have a little bit of time, which is 657-383-1002. And I'm going to talk to Mushka in Texas. Hi, Mushka. What's going on? How are you doing?
Oh, a lot's going on. I'm still finding myself.
Okay, well, that's a good project.
So Richard, good evening.
Yeah, hi, Mushka.
And hi. And I just had some newfound knowledge that I wanted to share with you and possibly your audience, and I was wondering if that would be okay. Try not to be too judgmental, because it's newfound knowledge for me. I'm just exploring it. Would that be all right with you?
Of course, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. let me preclude it by saying all of this knowledge I derived from who I call Prince Santos Bonacci.
Okay.
Santos Bonacci, his last name is spelled B-O-N, like Bon, which is usually good, and Acci is A-C-C-I, and he is widely available on your Google search engines and DuckDuckGo and Start Page, etc.
Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff, actually, so there's a bunch of free YouTube videos and things like that.
Right. And he's recently, I think, made some major breakthroughs and some things, and there's a lot he needs to learn, and we all need to learn, of course, but it was fascinating to me. He found out that there's an old ancient word for spinal fluid. I'm going to try and give the solution first that he came up with. What's your sign, by the way?
You mean astrologically, a sun sign?
Yes, sir. Astrologically, astronomically.
According to astrological chart that would be done for my birthday, the sun sign is Pisces, right on the edge of it.
Pisces. Oh, okay. Great. Anyway, the word he found, an ancient word, is called chrism.
Mm-hmm.
It's the spinal fluid. And the solution is every month your moon, when the moon is in your sign, you can find that at lunarliving.com. But when the moon is in your sign, those days, previous 3 days and 3 days afterwards, if you are clean, in other words, no meat, and your body and your mind are clean, you will receive a seed from the heavens through the starlight and the configurations, which I'd be negligent to point out that this day is a very a birthing day in the heavens right now. And if you can receive that seed, there's a process in our body which is set up much like the electromagnetic properties of the earth itself. And we are basically walking water bodies, duplicates of Mother Earth and the creation. This chrism, our spinal fluid, is brought to the heart chakra if we're clean enough and resides there to some degree to receive the seed. The seed is then sent up through the higher chakras into our brainstem, and the pituitary gland and the pineal gland, acting one as a magnet and one as an electric spark, will energize that particular seed which seems to die and goes into the some of the cavernous portions of our brain and lays to rest for 3 days. It is then risen and travels back down to the, I believe, the sacrum, the sacred, the sacroiliac, and the coccyx region, where the 5 fused spines are, and rises back again, is reborn in a sense. And when that happens and gets back in the brain, it turns on millions and millions of new brain cells to receive the message. And it was just a fascinating, and I give all the credit to Santos Bonacci, although he is a little bit if the two of you could get together, you could both kind of, I don't know. I just wanted to let you know that was what I've discovered, and mine is coming up on this coming Wednesday, the 27th, and I'm doing an experiment, and I'm going to find out if anything happens to me that I can relate back.
Okay, sure, give us a report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, yeah, and anybody who wants to look further into Santos's work, they can look on YouTube, right? To see any of his videos and things like that. I think he's got a lot of long lectures on YouTube, from what I remember.
You need to look at his most recent, especially the ones that everything you wanted to ever know kind of thing about life, put simply.
Yeah.
But he's got some really recent ones on this particular thing too that are, and the graphics are fantastic. It's three-dimensional bodies. He shows you how the body is exact duplicate of the Earth.
You know, if you ever feel like it, you can also post links to anything that you think is interesting on our forum too, and other people.
I know. Radio links and stuff. But I try to make it as simple as I possibly can. Just look up Santos, almost like Santa Claus.
Right.
Santos Bonacci.
Okay.
Bonacci.
Yeah. All right. Sounds neat, Mushka.
Thank you for your time.
All right.
Very much.
Have a good rest of the weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a wonderful life.
All right. You too. Talk to you tomorrow.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.
Okay. Now, we just have a little bit of time, and I'm going to go over a few things here. One of which is a question on the forum that Doug just brought to my attention. And it's about dealing, if we run out of time, we'll deal with this more next week, but I'll tell you a couple of things right now, just responses. Dealing with fear of change, and with respect to difficult decisions to make, and the person wanting to have joy in their life, and realizing that they can't change somebody else, which I would certainly agree with. I haven't ever found a good way to do that in the usual sense anyway. Why is it so scary to leave a situation or relationship or whatever it is that a person is in? Is it because the person wants to suffer? And, I'm not right there, but I'll tell you my just offhand responses to this. And that is that the only way to be clear that I know of about what to do in a situation is to get clear in yourself. Because if you let mind figure it out, you could have a good answer or you could have a bad answer, and you're going to think it's your answer. And it's the answer that came up from mind. And mind is not reliable unless you make friends with it and it becomes a trusted ally. And with most people, that has not been done. So mind is running all over the place, playing programs which we think are our thoughts and our feelings, and they're not. I'm sorry if this sounds totally insane to people, but I have to tell you, what I've honestly found with this. So in order to have any clarity in making strategic decisions, big life decisions about situations to stay in or not stay in, or relationships to stay in or not stay in, wherever you are, you're living with you. And the idea that, you have to be around the right people. It's really good to be around inspiring people, but it still leaves you with the job that you have now, which is not to be the slave of your own mind. And mind is in control right now. It doesn't want to hear that because it says, it's all coming from this other person. I'm not saying it's good to be around any particular person. I'm just saying that the main one that you have to deal with is your association with mind. And once you do that, then you can clearly see whether you need to be in a situation, not in a situation, in a relationship, not in a relationship. And until you deal with mind, you're not getting reliable information on that. So I would recommend the same things that we've been talking about, which means become aware of the programs. You know, this person in the chat room asks, am I just enjoying making myself miserable by being in this situation? No, that's all programming. So the very first thing you have to do to have any clarity and not fear, not worry about anything, not being mad at somebody else, even if it's justified, you have to be willing to practice this thing of dropping the programming, which is what you're considering your own thoughts right now, and getting still, relaxed. You have to relax. There's, no matter what relationship you're in or out of, there's no real joy without relaxation. And that's voluntary. You can do it whenever you're ready to do it. So I would recommend starting to practice that now. And in order to get relaxed, you can't just fake it. You have to find out where the tension is. And it's in two places generally. It's in the programs that are running through that we're letting tie us in knots. Remember, that's what you call your own thoughts and feelings and their programs. So you start watching them. I hope this makes sense. I know it could sound completely crazy, but you have to get quiet and watch the thoughts and feelings that are racing through your mind all the time. And you have to relax and just look at them and realize that they're programs. And then you're going to have to communicate with mind. Because mind is alive, aware, it's a self-aware, conscious entity. It's not a thing. It's not just you. It's like a kid that you've ignored for your whole life. And it's real. And it's upset because you never acknowledged and supported and loved and appreciated it. So when you see mind is like a little kid who has a toy, and it's like a CD player, okay? But it's more like a CD jukebox, and it can play anything that you can imagine. And what it's playing is CDs of programming of distress, very upset emotional states, very upset thinking, and it's got you thinking that that's you, and it's not. So the first step is just listening to that and realizing what it is. And then you talk to mind and say, look, mind, I'm really sorry I ignored you for my entire life, even though I was supposed to be your parent. I'm not going to do that anymore. Your abilities are really impressive. You've used them to tie me up in knots so that I can't even remember what I'm thinking, and I'm so distressed I can't stand it. And I'm going to try to run away and change my outer situation, and I'm not looking at the fact that the distress is the programs. Don't worry, you can still leave the situation if you want to, but you've got to deal with this first. So if you observe these programs as being programs and not your own thoughts and feelings, the minute you start to do that, the tension starts going away, you start getting empowered, and your mind begins to clear. You must do this, unless you want to just keep feeling like you do, which nobody does when they're in distress. It's not that you enjoy torment or enjoy suffering. It's a program, and you're used to it, and you think it's normal, and it's not. So if you look for the tension in your own body, and you go there in your attention, and you say, all right, you're going to relax now. And if you mean it, it has to relax, because you're the boss of the body. That's your house. Even though the body's alive, you're its boss. And you look at the programs and you say they're programs. These are not my thoughts and feelings. I'm pure spirit, which you are. Not limited, not subject to any distress at all. You can't be. You're not. You don't even have a form. You're just in the body at the moment. And then you talk to the mind and say, this is really great. You really tied me in knots. You're very talented. You have incredible powers. You got me worried about all these things. Wow. For a 2-year-old kid, which is about what mind is, you're amazing. I think that you might be able to help me with some adult things that I'm doing. And if you mean it, your mind is going to be so excited and happy to have a chance to help you. It's going to fall all over itself to do what you want. And then you have to think what you would like. And remember, mind has vast ability. Even though the subconscious is this huge unknown area to us, and the psychologists talk about us having 1% of our mind available or something that's probably much less. All of it is 100% conscious to mind. And mind is your intermediary or interface between your consciousness and the almost infinite information that describes the so-called real world. So if you make mind a friend, which is your child, and you use the psychology as a grown-up to heal your relationship with mind, your stress can't hold on. If you do that and you relax consciously, the stress is not the situation you're in. It's your reaction to it. It's your enslavement to the programs, which you can realize are programs and you can drop them. And you can make mind your ally and your child, which it is, and have a healthy relationship with it. And at that point, without the stress, without the fog and the distress and the anxiety and all this garbage that makes it impossible to see clearly, then you decide about your situation from there. Because if you look at it from there, you're going to know, am I benefiting? Am I learning something important from being in the situation, or am I not? And you project yourself into the future of 2 different alternative decisions. Say, if I stay in this situation, how am I going to feel later? If I get out of this situation, how am I going to feel later? And you pay attention, because you'll be told. And if you're calm and relaxed, and you've already dealt with mind, then you're going to get clear guidance. If you don't do it, and you just try to decide about the outer situation without dealing with where the distress is coming from, which is your mind, you can't trust the decision, you can't trust your vision of the data that you're getting. It's going to seem like it's all being done to you, like you're a victim, you're a helpless victim, and wondering if I enjoy suffering and all this garbage. It's not true. If you deal with mind first, that's a high priority. This is just how it seems to me. If something else feels right to you, great. But I can only share with you what I've experienced. And in my experience, if you do this, then you make a decision about your situation, and you will know whether to stay or not stay, and you'll have the clarity and the strength to do whatever you need to do. But if you don't deal with mind, you're going to stay feeling weak. You may move into another situation which is just as bad in different circumstances. It's not secure. But if you deal with mind first, everything changes. You get the power to know what you want to do with your own life. And you'll know that everything is in your hands, which it is. But experiencing that is a whole different thing. So anyway, I'm only responding to a couple of lines from the chat room. I hope that makes some sense. But what always gets overlooked is that the first thing that has to be dealt with is your own programming, not the situation. If you want to see the situation clearly, to make a good decision without any distress or fear. You're going to have to deal with mind first. And fortunately, it's not that hard. Mind may want you to think it's hard because it wants the programs to keep you tied up in knots, because it's the next best thing to being appreciated as your kid. But if you see the programming and do the exercise of watching those, just drop any kind of critique of anything on the outside long enough to watch the programs go by, thoughts and feelings, and see them as coming direct from the mind, from its little CD jukebox. And then start fixing your relationship with mind, which is really as real as a little kid. It's not imaginary. And if you can tune into that and make friends with it, then dropping those programs, you can see what your situation really is. And the people you're around, what they're really doing. And then it'll be obvious to you what you need to do, and you'll have the strength to do it without distress. But this is what gives you the power to do that. So I hope that makes some sense. And if you want in the future, call in and give us a little bit more feedback if you want to, or just do it this way and practice during the week and let us know what happens. But the specific instructions for dealing with mind and making that relationship constant or conscious is really, really important. So I hope that is helpful. Anyway, we're just about done. Go to our sites, watch our information, go to the Facebook group for Lost Arts Radio, sign up for the newsletter, donate to us if you have any money for that, because it will keep us going. Email topic requests and questions, richard@lostartsradio.com. Tomorrow's Sunday show, Rima Lebo, medical doctor, part 2 of drugs, what they do and how to get off them. And during the week, try to put some of what we talked about into practice, play with it. Let us know what happens. Communicate with me if you want to. Meet me back here tomorrow night for the educational part of the guest show, and then next week to talk a little bit more about what's going on. Have a good week.